Okay, so let's go to the final story of the day. And this one is the big one. This one is the big one for the roundup. So on Monday, everybody heard about a huge story that hit, just rocked Hollywood, if you will. And that was Victoria Alonzo getting fired, or so we thought, from Marvel. Um, Now, anybody who's not familiar with Victoria Alonzo, she had been the post production producer behind several of the films. So the THR just came out with a very interesting, I'll call it interesting, um, report and story about Alonzo um, and what it was. So this is what it says. Inside the firing of Victoria Alonzo, her Oscar-winning nominated movie Argentina 1985, the seventh of her exit. The Oscar the Oscar nominated drama Argentina 1985, which was actually nominated this year, okay, was at the center of last week's sudden firing of longtime Marvel executive Victoria Alonzo, the THR learned. Alonzo, who had been one of the 8 producers of the international production that was being distributed by Amazon. However, by doing so, she breached her contract several times, according to sources. After repeated warnings, the situation came to a head this week after the Oscars and ultimately led to her termination. It was a seismic shakeup at Marvel, where for years, Alonzo was part of the Holy Trinity along with Marvel Studios boss Kevin Feige, co-president and co-president Luis D'Esposito, who led the Marvel MCU, who led the Marvel Cinematic to even greater heights. According to insiders, Alonzo breached a 2018 agreement that saw her violate the company's standard of business conduct that stated employees would not work for competing studios. So there's a lot to digest here, so I'm going to read it first, and then I want to go back and actually talk about it. Sources say that Alonzo did not ask permission to work on Argentina in 1985, nor did she give notice, but the film did of her volatility. However, an IndieWire piece published last month on the film stated that she did have permission. When Disney found out about the project and the violation, her longtime service and her veteran status engendered the company to give her disposition on the condition she would not work for any other movie. She would not work on the movie further. She was also told not to promote it or publicize it in any way. The situation of a top executive working on a movie outside of the company confines was deemed serious enough to involve the management audit team, and a new memo was signed, according to an insider. A rep for Alonzo and Disney both failed to comment. The film premiered in September 2022 Venice International Film Festival, and soon the drama was on the awards track. Alonzo then found herself in front and center in the circuit of the screenings, doing Q&As, panels, and interviews. According to sources, she was reminded of her agreement and her breach several times, but the appearances continued. She even appeared on the Oscars red carpet, not as a Marvel executive associated with the studio's multi-nominated Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, but rather a producer walking with the film's director. What also wrangled Disney executives was that while she worked on the promotion of her movie, her purview of Marvel's visual effects as president of physical and post-production, visual effects and animation was busier than ever. Okay. Throughout the year or so, Marvel would put out an unprecedented level number of series and movies. A general impression emerged that the visual effects artists were not treated well, attributing factors to long hours, razor-sharp deadlines, and a lack of a singular vision. Movies, including the February release Ant-Man and the Wasp, have come under fire from the subpar visual effects work, while Alonzo's reputation became more and more polarizing. You can ask a person to stay working till 1 a.m. working on visual effects for so long before things start to break, said one post-production source. Another Post talent said they avoided working with Marvel so they didn't have because of Alonzo's reputation being so challenging. Um, so Selma I had actually given her support to her in 2021 in a post. So for the Buenos Aires-born Alonso, Argentina in 1985 was a personal tale. The feature stars Ricardo Duns as Julio. Excuse me if I mispronounce this. Julio Cesar Stratasa, the prosecutor who led the case behind those behind Argentina's reign of the military terror that led to the disappearance of 30,000 people. I've made a lot of stories about superheroes. Alonzo told IndieWire in a story published last month, and I've always wanted to tell a story about what happened in Argentina because I should have been one of those 30,000 people. Um, Alonzo's firing was sudden and shocked the town because of the hushed nature. Some have speculated that Alonzo was being silenced because she was outspoken against Florida's Don't Say Gay bill. As long as I'm in Marvel Studios, I will fight for representation. Alonzo, who was gay, said at the time. Disney took a stand against the bill, resulting in a clash with state government and ultimately the loss of special tax status. It is a move that will likely cost the company millions. But others say that being vocal has only increased Alonzo's profile within the company. She was on the board, or she was asked to represent the company on the board of GLAAD and Pride 365's leadership team, and made a deal with the company's publishing division to write a memoir. In any case, the visual effects industry will be closely watching what happens next. Marvel is one of the largest visual effects clients because of the scope of its work. Its tentpoles have usually 2,000 to 3,000 shots per movie. Think about that, guys, per movie about this. It is unclear who will take over for Alonzo in the interim. At least now, vendors will be working under the producer Jane Underhall for now. Insiders acknowledge whoever assumes the position will face similar challenges to Alonzo, who's helped out the unprecedented 18 films, television specials, and movies that have come out 2021, 2022. Said one visual effects pro, whatever criticism being levied against her, she's not part of the problem. It's the aggressive release schedule. Okay. There's a lot to digest. And guys, I'm sorry I wanted to read that whole thing because I wanted to make it clear about exactly what everything was. Okay. So let's start back at the beginning. Okay. And so basically what they're saying is that, well, let's go back and start at the beginning. She was fired for breach of contract. That's essentially what it comes down to. She was fired for breach of contract. And she had been told several times over, you cannot be a producer on this. You cannot have any association with this film. And that's it. And subsequently, she said, not so much. And so she was told repeatedly from Disney over and over and over again. And I think it came to a head, according to the sources, when she showed up on the red carpet, not for Disney, but for the director of the film. Look, here's where I stand on this. Okay. The fact is that a couple of things. Number one, obviously she wasn't happy. Okay. She just wasn't happy because she wanted to go do this and they said no. Okay. Now, that being said, I think you have to ask yourself, why would she jeopardize her job to do that? Okay. And I understand it was personal. I understand it was a passion project. But she had to know. Okay. She's a very bright woman. I have no doubt. I've never met her, but she's a very bright woman. Okay. What I would do, okay, and I compare it to this. These are all of the films that have either come out, okay, or will be coming out in the next couple of years. So we've had Thor: Love and Thunder. Okay, we've had Multiverse of Madness. We've had. Let's go back. So we've had Eternals. We've had Shang-Chi. Okay, we've had Thor: Love and Thunder, and this is really where the effects people said that were pretty shoddy. Okay, Multiverse of Madness, Wakanda Forever, and Quantumania. Okay, now we have Guardians coming out in about 6 weeks. Okay, and we'll have the Marvels in March. I'm sorry, not March, in November. Here's the thing. This is too much stuff. Okay, I've always said that when first of all, feature films are the bread and butter. It's not the Disney Plus stuff. Disney Plus stuff is gravy, in my opinion. The way I compare this is that it's like a student who says, "Oh, I'll take care of," they've got a test coming up. They said, "Oh, I'll take care of it," and then they're focused. Everything they put all their focus, the majority of their focus, on something else. And what ends up happening is, when that test comes around, they try to cram for it. Okay, and the results speak for themselves. They fail. That being said, when they fail, okay, the end result is poor special effects. The other backlash too is you're having all of these visual effects artists, and it's not just one; it's one after the other after the other. It's systemic. They're like, I don't want to work for Marvel because I don't want to deal with the baloney. Okay, so that being said, they'll take a job that maybe won't pay them as much. Now, that all being said, it just blows my mind that somebody would throw away a 17-year career that helped build one of the biggest studios in the world to do a passion project. And I look, I I just think it was a bad move on her part. She knew what was going to happen, and she did it anyways. She was told, "Don't do this." Okay. Um, I, I don't feel sorry for her. I'll be honest. I don't feel sorry for her at all. She is going to make a lot of money doing whatever she wants to do. Okay. Um, what I'll say is this: A, I hope she learned her lesson. Okay. And B, you're not going to see her in any Hollywood environment for at least 6 to 8 months. Okay. I wouldn't be shocked if it was the end of the summer, because all these studios have all of these pictures coming out, whether it's Paramount or Lionsgate or, whatever it is, Warner Brothers. They have all these things coming out. They are not going to want to bring somebody else on. When the award season starts, that's when you might see something happen. I've said it. She's worked with James Gunn a couple times. Don't be shocked. Do not be shocked, okay, if she goes over to work for Warner Brothers. Because Warner Brothers with James Gunn and Peter Safran is starting a brand new thing. And she helped build this from the ground up. And she has the resume to do it. Okay. I think she could very well go over to Warner Brothers and help James Gunn out, and it would be a problem. Now, there's another question to be had here. Will she pull this again? And I think the answer is no. I think she wanted out of Marvel so badly that she actually she did that. It was basically a middle finger to Marvel. That's what it was. And I'm sure she had been thinking about this for a long, long time. You don't just pull a stunt like this one day, wake up one day and say, "Oh, I'm going to go get myself fired from Marvel." You don't do that. This is something that happens over the course of several months. And by the way, like I said, even in the piece, she was warned. So they had had enough. Um, so I don't feel sorry for her. She'll be fine. And I think that It's going to be very, very fascinating to see where she turns up next. Anyways, guys, whole bunch of questions to ask you guys. Number one, do you think she did the right thing? Because I know there are some people out there that are saying, but David, she was working on her passion project. True. Did she do the right thing? Okay, that's number one. Number two, when do you think we'll see her again? Do you think she's going to go get another job immediately? Or do you think she's going to wait until, let's say, after the summer? Number three, do you think there's ever a chance that she might go over to Warner Brothers and work for James Gunn and help get that whole DC thing up and running? Okay. And finally, if not, where do you think she'll land? Or do you think she starts her own production company or visual effects company? Leave me your thoughts with all those questions down in the comment section, and I'll get back to everybody.